I shelled out $2,870 for a trip to Dubai. My father handed my spot to my brother-in-law, the self-proclaimed visionary CEO. I locked down my credit cards. You left us high and dry. He lost it at the airport. I'm a 32-year-old male, a project manager for a Fort Worth commercial signage firm. I began as an installer, scaling scaffolding and setting up signs in the blistering Texas heat, where metal could sear your skin without gloves. Through grit and skill, I worked my way up. Now I oversee contracts for everything from local arenas to corporate high-rises. Last quarter, I handled $1,300,000 in projects, all delivered on schedule and within budget. My annual salary is around $85,000, with bonuses for successful projects. 4 years ago, my parents hit hard times due to the pandemic. Dad had a lucrative career in construction sales, earning six figures supplying materials to developers across 3 states. Then, the industry ground to a halt overnight. Mom's work has been sporadic, always with a new excuse, back pain, a tough job market, and now her candle-making venture, which somehow costs more than it earns. When their landlord sold their rental, they faced homelessness. They asked for my help to get back on their feet. I've always been prudent with money. I drive a 12-year-old Toyota 4Runner with 187,000 miles, still running like a dream. I could afford newer, but it's reliable, paid off, and built to endure. In 2018, I had the foresight to buy a second property as an investment, a modest 2-bedroom condo in a solid neighborhood with good rental potential. I put down 20% to avoid PMI and locked in a 3.5% 30-year fixed mortgage before rates spiked. I let my parents move in for $800 a month, about a third of market rent. The mortgage is $1,400 plus $320 in HOA fees. So I was losing money monthly. I figured they'd be grateful, stabilize, and either pay market rent or find their own place within a year. 4 years later, they've paid rent only about 60% of the time. Over 4 years, they've shorted me roughly $15,000 in rent. My 26-year-old sister, Isabella, moved in 2 years ago, making things worse. "We'll catch up soon," became their refrain. "Why are you so rigid about this?" Isabella has her own brand of entitlement. She has a marketing degree and was a partygoer before the real world demanded actual effort. She moved in with my parents after her roommates grew tired of covering her rent. She dabbled in freelance social media work for 3 months before landing an entry-level job at a local marketing agency. She constantly griped about being underappreciated, despite having no portfolio to back it up. She earns about $42,000 but spends like she's making $120,000. When I raised the unpaid rent, Mom would say, "We're family, not a business. Why are you so petty?" Meanwhile, they never missed payments on their new SUV or Isabella's monthly spa trips. Dad once claimed, dead serious, that they couldn't pay rent 1 month because Isabella's hair extensions cost $400. Last year, I dropped by unannounced on a Saturday and found them hosting a backyard barbecue for 20 people. They had a new 75-inch TV I'd never seen and had just redone their kitchen with granite countertops. When I asked about the overdue rent, Mom snapped, "Not now, we have company," as if I were the rude one. The tipping point came when Dad retired in March. Unlike many in construction, he avoided major injuries, though his knees are shot from years of site visits. He needs surgery but keeps delaying it. For years, he'd talked about visiting Dubai, calling it the pinnacle of modern construction. He'd even offered input on the Burj Khalifa's plans. He had a coffee table book on Dubai's architecture he'd flip through weekly, sharing facts about its engineering marvels. I decided to make it happen as a retirement gift, hoping it would earn some appreciation and mend our bond. $28,000 for a 10-day Dubai trip. First-class Emirates flights from DFW, a 4-star hotel near the Burj Khalifa, desert safaris, and more. I spent weeks researching the best time to go and connected with my college friend James, who's worked for an engineering firm in Dubai for 3 years. He lives lavishly in an expat compound, driving a tax-free Mercedes. He promised to show us the authentic Dubai, not just tourist spots. When I announced the trip at dinner, Isabella, after a brief moment of gratitude, asked if Oliver could come along. Oliver, my sister's fiancé, is what happens when entitlement meets delusion. Picture every LinkedIn cliché stuffed into a 29-year-old with perfect teeth and a trust fund he pretends doesn't exist. He calls himself a serial entrepreneur and disruptive innovator, but his real business is talking big while others foot his bills. His LinkedIn profile is a buzzword salad, lots of optimizing paradigms but no actual profits. His profile photo shows him pointing at nothing in front of a rented Tesla, wearing a Patagonia vest. Classic. His venture capital connections are a distant cousin who's an admin at a firm that once backed a failed meal kit company. He constantly name-drops tech startups like he's an insider, but it's all recycled TechCrunch articles. Every conversation ends with a pitch for his latest vague venture. Last Thanksgiving, He trapped me for 40 minutes explaining his revolutionary app idea, basically Uber for dog walking, which already exists in a dozen forms. He has a knack for ordering the priciest menu item while reaching for his phone when the bill arrives. Urgent email, he'll say, then take a 15-minute bathroom break perfectly timed with the check. I initially refused Oliver's request to join. I was already funding 4 people. Isabella threw a fit. Why do you always ruin everything? You can afford it with your fancy project manager job? She ignored that her marketing gig barely covered a weekend in Austin, not a luxury Dubai trip. My parents backed her. Mom laid on the guilt. We're family. Oliver's practically family, too. Don't you want everyone at your dad's retirement celebration? Dad chimed in. It'd be nice to have everyone, son. Oliver knows a lot about global business. I looked Oliver in the eye and said, if you want to come, pay your own way. It's nothing for someone with your business savvy. His face twitched, betraying his empty wallet. He mumbled about liquidating assets and offshore accounts, code for begging his dad for cash. The issue seemed to die down after a few days. I thought they'd respected my boundaries. I should have known better. These are people who see boundaries as suggestions, like speed limits or tax laws. Oliver once bragged about a college friend at TSA and DFW, saying, if I ever need a favor, he's got me. I thought he was bluffing. Now it all adds up, but I'm getting ahead of myself. 2 weeks before the trip, Oliver cornered me in my parents' kitchen while I was grabbing coffee. I've been thinking about leveraging Dubai, he said, barely glancing up from his phone. Oh, I replied, uninterested, pouring coffee I'd brought over. We should set up meetings with real estate developers there. The UAE market's primed for disruption, and I've got ideas they'll want to hear. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. Seriously, all the big players are there. Imar, Nakil, Damak. This could be a game changer for my next venture. Not in the budget, Oliver.
Coming instead of you. He's more fun and will take better photos for social media. Dad thinks he'll be better company. My stomach dropped. Was this a cruel prank? I texted back, asking for clarification. Her reply, I'm serious. Oliver's taking your seat. You can go another time. We need him for his business contacts anyway. I responded with one word, understood. Then I locked my office door and did something they didn't expect. I called Emirates to get answers. From my office 20 miles away, the agent confirmed I was checked in for a flight leaving in 3 hours. After digging, I learned Isabella had called Emirates a week earlier, claiming I had a medical emergency. She tried to transfer my ticket to Oliver, but Emirates doesn't allow name changes. Instead, they planned for Oliver to use my boarding pass to clear security. This wasn't just family drama, it was fraud. I called Emirates again, reaching their fraud department. Since I'd booked everything with my card, I had leverage. They couldn't block passengers already checked in for the outbound flight, but they could flag the return leg for review. I requested a full cancellation and refund of the return tickets, citing fraud. Next, I canceled the hotel bookings on Booking.com and every excursion with the tour operators. I called James in Dubai to explain. They kicked you off your own trip for Oliver? That's cold, he said. Totally deserved, though. What'll they do when they land? Figure it out, I said. Dubai's not cheap for unprepared tourists. A decent meal at a mid-tier restaurant runs $50 to $75 per person. A cab from the airport to downtown is about $50. Their emergency funds would vanish in 48 hours. I called my bank, reported my card as compromised, got a new one, and froze my other accounts in case anyone had my details. I wasn't taking risks. These people felt entitled to my money. My best friend Matt had always seen through their nonsense and warned me, but I hadn't listened. I texted him, remember. That talk about consequences? It's happening. That night, he showed up with beers and his locksmith friend Ryan. By 10 p.m., every lock on my rental property was replaced, new security cameras were up, and a keypad lock was installed at the front door. I contacted a property management company I'd worked with before. They drafted a formal lease at full market rate, $2,850 a month, utilities excluded, with first and last month's rent due upon signing. I also called my real estate attorney, who'd handled property matters for me before. He prepared an eviction notice, giving them 30 days to sign the new lease or vacate. While he worked on the eviction, I explained how Oliver used my personal info to board the flight, essentially identity theft. My attorney, who also handles criminal cases, saw the opportunity. We need to document this thoroughly, he said. This isn't just family drama, it's potentially criminal. The next morning, I filed a police report with printouts of texts, booking confirmations, and flight records showing someone used my ticket. The officer was impressed with my evidence. Most identity theft cases don't have this much proof, he said. Usually, it's just a weird charge, not a full paper trail with confessions. I called Emirates Fraud Department again. The representative was shocked. Sir, using someone else's boarding pass and ID is a major security violation, she said. She escalated the case for internal investigation. Remember Oliver's TSA buddy? It seems he helped bypass the ID check.
Emirates didn't catch the mismatch until the return leg, triggering a security review.
My attorney sent a cease and desist letter regarding the identity theft and helped file charges for fraud and misuse of personal information. Their flight landed in Dubai around 7 p.m. local time. I pictured their excitement, smiles and Instagram posts, expecting a luxury getaway. But no hotel shuttle awaited. No reservations, no return flights. Matt came over with pizza and slices. Isabella, what did you do? Oliver, this is unprofessional and possibly illegal. My lawyer will be in touch. Mom, call us back. We're lost. I sent one reply, Oliver's got you covered in Dubai. I hear he's more fun than me. Then I turned off my phone and slept soundly for the first time in months. Matt couldn't stop laughing. Who's Oliver's lawyer? The one handling his billion-dollar deals. I grabbed another slice. Exactly. 2 days later, I turned my phone back on. The texts were gold. Dad, we had to call Oliver's dad for emergency funds. You humiliated me in front of Isabella's future family. Oliver, I fell off a camel on a last-minute desert tour and broke my arm. I can't take photos. Mom's devastated. This is on you. Amazing how a camel's bad mood is my fault. From their messages, I pieced together their Dubai disaster. They were stuck at the airport with no hotel, no transport, and dwindling cash. They called Oliver's parents for a $5,000 wire, a fun conversation, I'm sure. They stayed 3 nights in a budget hotel near the airport, reportedly crawling with roach-sized roaches. My research suggests they paid about $400 a night for the privilege. Dubai's budget hotels still cost a fortune by US standards. Oliver sold his vintage Rolex, definitely a fake, for about $500 to cover expenses, despite claiming it was worth $12,000. Heartbreaking. They returned to Texas 5 days after leaving. Isabella's furious texts revealed they spent most of the trip broke, panicked, and dodging stray dogs near their cheap hotel. They mostly argued in their room, with Oliver blaming Isabella for the trip from hell and my parents questioning his business prowess. My favorite part, they tried to visit the Burj Khalifa but couldn't afford observation deck tickets. Dad's dream trip was reduced to staring at it from the ground. Tough break. When they pulled up in an Uber, I was in my driveway with Matt, sipping coffee like we were having the time of our lives. I'd parked my 4Runner and his Tacoma to block the driveway. What the hell was that? Dad barked, his face red from sun or rage. I sipped my coffee slowly. That's what consequences look like. Mom shouted, "You abandoned us in a foreign country. We could have died." Yet here you are, I said. Alive and well, though Oliver's down an arm. I nodded at his makeshift sling. Oliver stepped forward, wincing. What you did is actionable. I have contacts at 3 top law firms who'll take this case pro bono. Matt snorted. That'd be handy. Do they also treat camel-related injuries? That sling looks like a kid made it from a napkin. You have no idea what we endured, Dad growled. Oliver's arm broke when a camel threw him. The hotel had no AC. Isabella got food poisoning from a street vendor. We spent a night at the airport because our cards didn't work. The embassy did nothing. No surprise there. What did they expect? American embassy, my son canceled the luxury trip he paid for after we ditched him. Send help. Don't forget the camel, I said, smirking. Heard it was traumatic. Oliver's face reddened. The camel wasn't properly trained. I told the guide I'm an experienced rider. I'm sure you did, Matt muttered, loud enough for all to hear. Isabella was near tears. You told him about your Fortune 500 connections and crypto portfolio. We had to beg Oliver's dad for money. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Almost as embarrassing as cutting someone out of a trip they paid for, I shot back. You didn't answer our calls. Mom yelled. We didn't know what to do. You figured it out, I said. Dubai's one of the safest places on earth. Plus, you had Oliver, the global business guru. I thought you were in good hands. I pulled out the lease agreement and eviction notice. Since we're talking, here's the new deal for the condo. $2,850 a month, utilities not included. First and last month's rent due on signing. You have 30 days to sign or leave. They stared at the papers like I'd handed them a prison sentence. This is illegal, Oliver said. You can't just, it's completely legal, I cut in. You've never been on a lease. My parents are month-to-month tenants, paying way below market. I'm updating the terms. It's all documented. Why? Mom asked. We can't afford that now. Not my problem, I said. Maybe Oliver's parents can help again, like in Dubai. Dad stepped closer, his tone softening. This is harsh, son. We're your family. It's not about family, I said. It's about business. That's what I'm doing. As they turned to leave, I added, oh, the locks are changed. You'll get new keys after signing the lease and paying. Contact the property manager on page 3 for access to your stuff. They didn't sign the lease. They didn't leave either. For 30 days, they ignored my property manager's calls and emails, thinking they could outweight me. They were mistaken. I filed for eviction the day after the deadline. The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. During that time, they alternated between ignoring me and sending manipulative texts. Mom, I raised you better. Dad, no son of mine would betray his family. Isabella, hope you're happy ruining our lives. Each message reinforced my decision. They never admitted their role in the mess or apologized. It was always about what I was doing to them, never what they'd done to me. Didn't sit idle during the eviction process. The identity theft case progressed. The police report went to a fraud detective who called for a follow-up. He was thrilled with my evidence. Texts, screenshots, flight records. Most identity theft cases aren't this clear, he said. They basically confessed in writing. Emirates Fraud Department wrapped up its review. An official confirmed Oliver's passport was logged in their system, proving he used my boarding pass and ID to board. My attorney filed the identity theft and fraud charges separately from the eviction, noting courts don't like mixing civil and criminal cases. I met with my financial advisor to adjust my investments, now that I wasn't subsidizing 3 adults. I talked to a realtor about homes in up-and-coming areas and reactivated my dating profile after a 2-year hiatus. At the eviction hearing, the judge, a no-nonsense 60-year-old woman, heard it all. My attorney presented the case, tenants refusing to sign a new lease or vacate, a history of spotty payments, and my right to update terms. Their defense was, we're family, and we've lived there for years, which didn't sway her. Dad tried mentioning his knee issues post-retirement. The judge stopped him. Sir, medical issues don't grant tenancy rights, she said, peering over her glasses. Oliver claimed as Isabella's fiancé, he had some stake. The judge shut him down fast. Young man, unless your name's on a lease or you've established legal residency, you have no standing here, she said, visibly annoyed. The ruling went my way. They had 5 days to vacate. Outside the courthouse, Mom grabbed my arm. You can't do this. Where are we supposed to go? Ask Oliver, I said. Isn't he family now? Oliver stepped up. My parents won't house your family. That's your job. I laughed. Funny how your entrepreneurial spirit doesn't solve real problems. What happened to those UAE investors you were going to dazzle? That meeting would have happened if you hadn't sabotaged the trip, he snapped. Right, I said. I'm sure the sheiks were dying to fund you. What even is your business? 2 years, and I still don't know what you do. 2 days later, Oliver and Isabella were served papers for the fraud case. Oliver's face when he realized it wasn't going away was priceless, like someone who'd never faced consequences finally getting hit. For 5 days, they begged, threatened, and guilt-tripped. It didn't work. On day 5, they moved out. My parents went to my aunt's. Oliver and Isabella, despite his earlier protests, went to his parents'. They took everything. Not nailed down, dishwasher, microwave, washer, dryer, and trashed the place, punching holes in walls, breaking a bathroom mirror, and leaving garbage everywhere. My property manager documented it all, and I filed a report for property damage. My attorney suggested small claims court for the stolen items, but I chose to track the costs, $4, $200 for replacements and repairs, adding it to their debt spreadsheet. I didn't expect repayment, but it felt right to record it. Isabella texted, "I know we had issues, but let's grab coffee and talk. I'll forgive everything if you help with our first month's rent somewhere else." I didn't reply. A day later, she texted, "Fine. Hope you're happy alone forever. Screw you." Then Dad texted, "Your mom and I have decided you're no longer our son unless you apologize and fix this. We didn't raise you to be heartless." I replied, "Understood. Good luck." Mom called extended family, claiming I'd abandoned them, conveniently omitting the years of financial support and the Dubai fiasco. Dad's texts grew threatening, the last one warning I'd regret this forever. I didn't respond, forwarding them to my attorney, who sent a cease and desist letter. When that didn't stop him, I filed for a restraining order. The judge granted it after seeing over 30 threatening messages. The bailiff who served the order said Dad ranted about ungrateful kids and family loyalty. Meanwhile, the identity theft case moved forward. Oliver and Isabella didn't go to jail but got misdemeanor charges and fines. The DA wasn't keen on a felony trial for a family matter but wouldn't let them off either. They took a plea deal for lighter charges, restitution, and full cooperation. Emirates security reports sealed it. They take ID misuse seriously, and Oliver's boarding pass stunt was airtight evidence. The TSA agent, Oliver's college buddy, was investigated for bypassing protocol and lost his job. Emirates tightened their ID checks as a result. Oliver got a $5,000 fine and 200 hours of community service, claiming he just used the boarding pass I gave him, backed by his TSA friend's lie. The agent took the bigger hit for skirting rules. Isabella got a $2,500 fine and 100 hours, as the DA said texts alone didn't prove she knew Oliver's plan. She denied involvement. Oliver took the fall. Both got a year's probation.
The criminal record retard.
Isabella was rejected for a marketing job after a background check flagged her fraud conviction, tough for firms handling financial data. Oliver's consultancy tanked as his boasted Fortune 500 connections ghosted him. Turns out, legit businesses don't love fraud convicts. It's been a year since the Dubai mess. I haven't heard from my immediate family since the restraining order.